everyone, this is Sarah with sewingpartsonline.com. I'm going to be showing you how to use a hammer foot. I'm also going to show you how to install it and a few techniques to make sewing with it a little bit easier. So this is the hammer foot, and how it works is your fabric feeds into this little funnel and it's flipped over twice. And they all come in a bunch of different sizes. You can get them from a really narrow hem to a little bit larger. You can tell the size of your hammer foot by flipping it over. You see this little groove is going to be the finished size of your hem. As you can see, this one's really small, so it's going to be a narrow hem, and it's ideal for lighter fabrics because the hem is so small. But if you wanted to use thicker fabrics, just get a bigger hammer foot. It's very easy to install. We're just going to clamp on a little bar just like you have your foot right now. So you go ahead and press this button to release the foot that's already on. Pull it out of the way and bring it right under the shank. And there you go, easy. So first thing you want to do is kind of prep your fabric for the hem. So think about the width that your hammer foot is. Mine's 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to try to do that right now to start off the stitch. So I fold it over once, and I'm going to fold it over one more time. And I can either finger press it down, or you can use a pin and slide it in vertically to keep that fabric down. And this is going to be our starting point for when we get to the machine. So here we have the fabric underneath the foot, and we have our little hem that we did with our fingers by finger pressing. And now we have a little bit of our fabric is already just rolling up into the funnel. So if your fabric needs a little help getting up there, just kind of push it to the side like this, and then kind of wedge it in and pull up a little bit like this. Because this is pretty much how you're going to be feeding it with these two fingers like this. It's going to need help going through the foot. So we do a couple stitches to start the hem, and it'll just go off on its own. The important thing is to make sure your fabric is going where you want it to go. So what I like to do is focus on keeping the raw edge right here on this little corner and the folded edge right here. So it's going to fold right back into the groove that I want it to go. And the fabric is going to need a little bit of help. So if you first buy your foot, you might want to practice it or practice with it a few times until you're comfortable with it, because it does take a little bit of practice. There we go. And as you can see, the fabric when you get to the end, just pull it like this to make sure that the fabric won't go over the edge. So for the small hammer feet such as this, you're going to be using it on the fine fabrics. So I really recommend putting a pin in there to keep this folded so that you can start the stitch off nicely. So we're just going to push it underneath here, and we're going to line it up with a little groove in the back. Just like this. We're just going to do a couple stitches to get us started and to get the fabric secured. And now we can pull out our pin. And to get the fabric up into this funnel, keep our needle down, lift up the foot, and you're going to want to use some tweezers because this funnel is so small. Just kind of try to wedge it in there. Like this. Put your foot back down, and you're going to want to try to guide it over like this. Basically, since it's 1/8 of an inch, we're going to be feeding in a 1/4 inch fabric. So I want to be putting in at least a 1/4 inch fabric. And how I do that is I keep the fold right here on this little toe, and I'm just trying to kind of go over with the raw edge over to this. So I'm trying to eye about a 1/4 of an inch. And with the bigger ones, it's kind of same thing. How much fabric is going to be folded in is how much you want just hanging out over here to guide into the funnel. And once you feel more confident with it, you can speed up. And don't get discouraged if when you're first learning to do this, it just doesn't work out that well. It takes a lot of practice to get completely comfortable. And this is just a straight line that I'm hemming. And you're gonna have to stop and start and make sure nothing's coming out of place. But once you have it mastered, it really is faster and a time saver, and it looks so professional, nice and neat. You'll love the way that it looks. And as you can see, I'm coming up to a hem, which is okay. We're gonna get up to it, and since it's fine fabric, I can fit the hem underneath there. So I'm gonna get up to it, and to make sure that this doesn't go over the edge, I'm just kind of pull diagonally towards me. It's gonna make sure that it doesn't hang off the edge. You can see it's getting folded in there. And there we go, a nice, neat hem. So the hemmer foot is really great to use on skirts, dresses, anything with a curve. It does work perfectly. It just takes a little bit of practice before you start. So this fabric, it's hard to tell, but it is actually on a curve. If you're a little bit scared to do it at first, you're afraid that the fabric's gonna warp, that's okay. Just do a basting stitch right along the hem to make sure that the bias doesn't tweak your fabric out of whack. So we're gonna do exactly what we did before. We're gonna keep a pin underneath here and push it underneath to line it up with that groove. Once it's in the groove, we're gonna do a couple stitches to keep it secure. Lift up our foot, take out the pin. Use our tweezers to kind of put it into that little funnel. And what helps me with doing on a curve is to kind of feed it at an angle. So what I do is I start through and then just kind of sew slowly and kind of feed it at an angle, and just keep gauging to make sure that what you're feeding is 1/4 of an inch, because I have 1/8 of an inch foot. So I'm trying to make sure that I feed in constantly the same amount. That's the most important part, is just making sure that you're feeding in the same amount of fabric. And it does help me to do it at an angle to keep with the curve. Using such a narrow hemmer is really great for circle skirts and dresses, because it'll keep any ripples or funky puckering out of the way, and it just looks so nice and even and very professional. And so as we're getting to the end here, keep our finger down on the fabric, making sure to guide it. And to prevent the hem from rolling off the edge, we're gonna kind of pull right here. Just try to kind of keeps it where it needs to be. And there we go, perfect. So if you come across a seam while you're using your hemmer foot, generally you don't want to try to shove this bulky seam into the funnel. It's just, it's not going to turn over right, and you're going to have the raw edges poking out. But that's okay, because it already is forming like a kind of rolled hem on its own. So what we'll do is we'll use our fingers to kind of turn it under. It helps to pull a little taut at the end. And we're and we're just going to sew right over it. So pull it out of the funnel, keep your needle down, lift this up, position it right underneath the funnel, and just sew right over it like this. And after you get over the seam, put your needle down and reposition the fabric into the funnel. You just move it around and eventually it'll go back in there. You can use your tweezers if you need them to just pull the fabric back into this funnel and start sewing like you were before. So that was the Hemmerfoot. It's going to make your hems look a lot more professional, and I hope you enjoy sewing with yours.